Hello there, I'm Neffendorf here. I've had a few technical difficulties, so just hopefully going to be able to actually do the broadcast properly now and talk about the body's healing cycle. So I think we're live. I'm just going to share in a few groups now, and then we'll actually get on with the broadcast properly. So on I go, just 1 moment. This is obviously completely live, all going according to plan. As well, I've been clapping, obviously supporting me here. So just a moment, we'll actually get on with the broadcast properly. So just going to share that as well on my personal page. Just get some more people along. Okay, right, so here I am, and welcome to tonight's broadcast on Feel Better, Heal Better, which is all about the body's healing cycle. And in this training tonight, we're going to look at the reasons why specific symptoms develop in your body. And we're also going to look at stress and what stress actually is. Now, a lot of people talk about stress being a cause, and we'll come on to that in a moment. We're also going to look at the learnings that you can get from your body, and I'm going to use some specific examples of eczema and enlarged prostate as two quite simple to understand processes that the body goes through that we can then use to really understand this perspective. So before we get onto that, I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. My name's Sam Neffendorf, and if you don't know me, I am an emotional health coach specialising in physical conditions using a process called Meta Health, which is an approach to actually exploring how symptoms manifest in their body. It is a root cause analysis process about how to actually get to the root cause of problems and issues that you might have that happen in your body. I'm just going to check a few messages, see how people are getting on, because I know that some people have tried to get in and haven't been able to. So just 1 moment. Okay, and now I'm just going to continue here. It's going to be recorded. Someone's just asked that. Just so you know, I had some fancy screen sharing software that I've been trying to use, which is why this has not gone as well as planned. But I'm going to go the old-fashioned route in a bit. We're going to come on to using this diagram to actually talk through what the body's healing process is. So, really interesting point about the physical illnesses, diseases that people get is that now the medical system is very good at diagnosing these things, and a key point, if you ever do look at mental health, working with a mental health practitioner, is that they generally are going to want you to have had a medical diagnosis first, so that we understand the tissues that are actually being affected in the body. However, if you look in the Merck manual, which is where most doctors use that to actually diagnose patients, something like 85% of conditions are actually cause unknown. So while they can diagnose what's going on and provide some symptom treatments, which can be very useful, they aren't so sure of the root cause. So what they often say, and what's become quite a sort of buzz statement, and a lot of people say this about illnesses that have arisen, is that the root cause is stress. So they talk about the root cause being stress, whereas in fact that's not actually the root cause, which I'll come on to in a moment. Now, stress is in fact a symptom, and I'll show you this on this diagram that I've now. This is a healing cycle from the perspective of mental health. Because of my fantastic technology here, I'm viewing this backwards, so I'll have to try and work with this. But what this is actually showing looks like quite a nice sort of yin-yang process. Is a full healing cycle that the body actually goes through, and often, not always, the point where people go to the doctors tends to be around here, where it says regeneration trigger. But this is often the time where you start, my finger's going to go the wrong way here because I'm looking at this all backwards, but this is often the time when you start feeling symptoms arising in your body, start feeling unwell, and you're starting to feel tired, things come up. I'll go into some specific examples in a bit. And so you go to a doctor, and then they give you a treatment, which would be something along the lines of some pills, some cream, which you use, and it can have some effects. It can actually get rid of the symptoms that you actually received. However, that you were experiencing. However, from the perspective of mental health, we're not looking far enough back. Something's happened which has actually led to a symptom occurring. So if you come back here, this stage is normal health, and you'll be going about your life however healthy that you normally are, your sort of standard level of health, and then something happens. Here it says it's a stress trigger, and what these are specific types of stressful or traumatic events, and they have to be something that is unexpected, dramatic, isolating, and you had no strategy to deal with them. And we call these UDINs, unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategy events. And something like this happens, and that is actually what puts your body into stress. So your body goes into stress and goes into this stress phase. This is a very simple disease process, just showing a stress and recovery cycle, which you'll go through all the time. But that stress phase is showing that the stress isn't the cause of symptoms. It's actually something that's happened as a result of a specific stress trigger. And it makes sense, really, doesn't it? That your body's acting in a certain way because something's happened that you didn't have a strategy to deal with at the time. So your body came up with a way to actually deal with that. The shock hits you in the heart, hits you in the brain, and then it hits you on a specific part of your body, depending on the brain relay that was affected. 4 different brain relays, which all correspond with different organs and tissues in your body and have different themes around them. I'll go into a couple of those a bit later on, but generally, when you go into this stress phase here, you'll start to feel sort of higher energy, more, perhaps you might feel anxiety about things going on. You might not be eating as much. You might actually feel like you've got a lot of energy and you're feeling very good at that time, but it's not a sustainable energy, and there's going to be a price to pay for it later on. So you've got this, as you're going through this stress phase, this could go on for a very long time, and then something happens that you accept. You accept the thing that happened back here, the stress trigger, and acceptance happens, and you actually go into regeneration, and you're in this, you go down into a slump where you haven't got much energy. You might feel that you have to rest a lot, and then that can go on for quite a long time. You can get stuck in that. Then you get what I'm doing this backwards. You've got this healing peak, which is also people have called these healing crisis. But we call it a healing peak because it's not really a bad thing that's happening. It's something that is just going on where your body is stress testing again. And then the second stage, where your symptoms are kind of resolving themselves, expelling from the body basically, until you get back to equilibrium and move back to normal health. So in practice, that's the way it should happen, and we go through these phases all the time. It's almost like the cycle of life. In fact, you could even say everybody goes through this every single day, because you wake up in the morning. This is the time when you're active. Your whole body's going through a stress phase of being active, and then you go into your rest, very tired, deep sleep, and then waking up the next day, and it continues again. But individual organs and body tissues go through these processes as well, and they are, and sometimes if the specific issue that's happened, the specific stress trigger, the UDIN, the unexpected, dramatic, isolated, no strategy event, hasn't been resolved, or it's a very big deal in your life, then you can find that you can either get stuck at various points in this cycle, or alternatively, you can get stuck in a chronic version where you stay going in and out of these loops over and over again until something actually happens that you are able to resolve it and go back to equilibrium and full health. So now I want to one other point is actually the roots of your healing. The healing that you do when you understand this process isn't just about healing the body symptom, although that's, for many people that's a great start and it's what they want to happen. There's so much learning in what your body's actually trying to tell you as well. So you can get some specific learnings as how to move forwards in your life, or perhaps actualize new areas, new aspects of your life that you didn't have before. So the healing isn't just about your body, it's about your whole life. Right, okay, so I'm now going to talk through this in relation to two processes. One sort of body process is eczema. So eczema is something which is obviously affects many people, and it's very, very uncomfortable, and can cause people to feel, just feel terrible about themselves, very itchy, very painful. Often happens in children, which is very distressing for them and also for their parents, because nothing really seems to work. And so I want to talk about what's happening from the mental health perspective with eczema, because it's very simple to understand. So with eczema, what's happened is you've actually, the UDIN, the unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategy event, is to do with separation. It's either, depending on which part of the body the eczema appears in, either to do with feeling separate from, and, you know, for example, really missing somebody or something, or it's to do with wanting to be separate from, so feeling repulsion for something and wanting to be, wanting that thing not to be there. But I'm going to just talk about a specific example, and let's just say that there's a young girl, maybe 9, 10 years old, something like that, suddenly developed eczema, and parents are very worried. It's developed all over the body, different patches of eczema in different places. And from a mental health perspective, that is a sort of full separation conflict. But what's really interesting is that the eczema here, the actual redness, the soreness that's coming up, doesn't start with this stress phase. It actually starts sometime after the regeneration trigger. So normally the worst part is down in this regeneration part A, where the skin is really, really red, really, really painful, or whatever the version of eczema is, tends to be in regeneration. So what might have happened here? Well, if we actually look at a story, it could be something like this. Let's say it was the end of the school term, was around here, and father relays to this young girl that suddenly, out of the blue, she hears from him, or maybe even overhears him talking to mum about the fact that they're going to have to move. She's going to have to move school. Well, these could all be the things that are happening in her head, but when she hears that they're moving to another town, a stress phase begins. So she goes into this whole stress, could be to do with dad's got a new job or something like that. And during this time, you don't actually notice the symptoms, but she's very stressed as a result of this cause. So she might be anxious, there might be a lot of anger going on, which is behind the scenes. And then she actually, what's actually going on with her skin, which isn't really noticeable, is that it's been thinning, and it might seem a bit dry at this stage. And what's actually going on there is that within that stress phase, the skin thinning and becoming dry is all about basically the skin is becoming less sensitive. And from the perspective of the body's intelligence, which remember is a biological solution, not actually a logical solution, she is the skin thinning and drying is actually becoming numb to biologically protect her from the separation conflict. So why did the regeneration happen? Well, it might have been that she overheard that they were no longer moving. So the move, which she had found out about, was never going to happen after all, and she's not going to have to leave her friends, leave her school, everything that she's used for. So in that stage, relax. And then the red pain and symptoms actually come about when she's made that acceptance. And what it is the body's actually healing. The skin is repairing, but often these repair processes are painful. That could be the sort of lumpiness happening. And so in that case, she might get stuck in here. Now, if there were anxiety conflicts then that happened, further things in her life triggered her to feel that she might be separated from friends, etc. She could go through the whole process again. So it could all happen. But if she was now felt completely confident and sure that she wasn't going to be moving away and was no longer going to feel separate anymore, then it could be that she'd just go naturally through the return to health. However, if that original unexpected shock still remained, then that's the sort of thing that you need to look at actually resolving and either that can be done in lots of ways. There's socially and environmentally, so you naturally come to a conclusion that things aren't going to happen in that way. It could be done through an intervention, emotional or mental, spiritual, whatever intervention. Something like could be EFT, it could be some NLP, hypnosis, something like that. So there's many different, basically many different things that can happen, and we look at all sorts of interventions within Meta Health. But basically, Meta Health is the analysis process, and then you can look at all of the different solutions, which is why it's really good as a framework. And then you can actually find sort of specific tailor-made solution involving physical treatments, mental, emotional, and changing the environment, changing the social side of things, so it can resolve. So that's one example. The particular brain relay involved is to do with separation, it's the cortex, and it's to do with everything that's going on outside the body. So the next stage, the next example is a different kind of thing, but I want to talk about enlarged prostate, or potentially a diagnosis of a prostate tumour for a man maybe in their mid-50s or early 60s or something, someone who works in a very, I guess, a chest-beating, high intensity sales role, where they have to have sales meetings, and people who are very much focused on results in a city. This guy might have been a real high flyer. He might have been there for many years, kind of the silverback of the organisation, and beating off the young bucks from his challenge, but then or just not just rising above them. So think of this back to nature, where it might have been a stag for many years, was in charge of the herd, and then suddenly this challenge is happening. So all this actually relates to the body's biological processes. Now, so it could be maybe that in the boardroom, some of the young, more technologically literate sales consultants or whatever, they're starting to be heard above him, and he is shocked at this starting point where one of them actually gets asked to fulfill a contract that he was expected to do, or something along those lines. And that sends him into stress because at a deep subconscious sort of natural level, he's actually feeling that his dominance is being challenged, his masculinity. And, I think we can see that this happens in quite a lot of companies out there, unfortunately, and where, perhaps I'll come on to what the learning might be for him in a minute, but it's quite an interesting thing. But different with, so this is more a core survival issue rather than to do with interface with the outside world. And this actually hits a part of the brain called the brainstem, which basically is where all these survival-based programs are. And it's almost like his subconsciously, because of this has happened, it's like his position, but even his family are psychologically threatened from what he can perceive. And so the stress happens, and the natural response that the body, because he didn't have a way to deal with it at the time, so his body actually responds by the prostate enlarging to be able to produce more prostate fluid, and the biological reason for that is that he's, to enable him to maintain his place in the herd, biologically be able to, continue to attract a mate. Meta Health isn't that politically correct. It's all about nature. And so then, if he stays stressed and feeling challenged, for a very long time, he could actually end up during the stress, as well as being stressed, the prostate is continuing to grow, maybe gets diagnosed as actually having a tumour or something like that. Now, a good regeneration for someone in this position could be the realization and the acceptance that it's a new stage in his life, which isn't, maybe now, accepting that he's not one of the young bucks, the young city bucks or whatever, but now it's time to become maybe the wise sage or something like that, and step into an advisory role, or make peace in some way with the fact that this isn't going to be his position anymore. And that sort of acceptance could then put him into regeneration, which could actually, now there can certainly be some symptoms here, because as this enlarged growth sort of reduces, there could be things like some biological things happen, like some bleeding occurs, and some symptoms like, again, some pain. These things are often painful, but over this sort of regeneration phase, maybe stepping into this new role, this new acceptance, new understanding about life, is a really good way to actually resolve that. So coming out of the stress, and again, this could happen naturally if he goes away and thinks about things, or it could be that might need some assistance. It could come in many different ways. I would use EFT and other tapping techniques, but there's also it could even happen with a drink with friends could actually trigger this process. But when people get stuck in these processes, and there's literally, of course, thousands, if not more, conditions that people can have, but they all follow this stress phase. The stress is in many cases the hidden part of the healing cycle for the body, and then this regeneration phase, once something's actually been accepted, and people are then able to move into, hopefully move back to healing. But you can get stuck in this. So if there is a big unresolved trauma, it could keep getting triggered over and over again. Examples could be things like recurrent back pain. You can have many, many different processes going on. So people who are experiencing conditions which have been given a label, such as fibromyalgia or ME, well, actually those are a collection of different healing processes going on, and people could be in a range of stress phases and regeneration phases, all with different symptoms going on at different times. So it's very, it's important to look and really chunk down everything and find out what each individual symptom means, and we do that by finding out what the specific tissue is or the specific bit of stress that's going on, and then we're able to work on the client being able to actually heal themselves through this understanding. The understanding can be very easy to its own right. I'll put this down now, but also they've got we can do the interventions. So whatever energy work interventions, hypnotic, matrix reimprinting, emotional freedom techniques, tapping, those in particular are ones that I use a lot, because you can get really good resolutions at a body and mind and energetic level with those. Also looking, there'll be physical things, physical ways to support. So we're looking at maybe there's something going on in the diet, maybe something in exercise, that could help. There's also there's also social and environmental things. So in the case of eczema, which is caused by a separation of some sort, finding a social way of addressing that, whether it is making peace with a family member, or going back into a social circle that either something that you became separate from, or a new one which is going to fulfill and stop you feeling separate. So many different solutions. And the beauty of it is that they all fit within this umbrella. And once you understand these intelligent signals that your body's telling you and your body's sending you, you can you just become so much more able to heal yourself and also move forwards in your life with whatever the meta meaning of that body symptom was. So that's the talk today. A little bit flustered, I'm afraid, because I had such technological tribulations and trials on, but I'll get over it. I'll be all right. I'll go through my healing cycle and everything will be okay. So if anyone's got any questions now, I'll be very happy to answer them. If you want to write anything in the comments. If I don't, I'm not going to know every single disease process. I generally have to explore them and do some research for those. But yeah, feel free to type any questions that you've got about the process, or what you thought of it, or anything about the any questions that you've got. Just like to say that if you are experiencing physical, mental, or emotional symptoms, and you are either in some sort of loop where they are happening over and over again, or pain's not going away or whatever, I'll be very happy to spend half an hour with you at no charge, looking online. We can do Skype or Zoom just to look at your specific symptoms that are going on for you, what they might mean from a meta health perspective, what your body's trying to tell you, and once you've got that learning, how you can move forwards and not only hopefully resolve the symptoms and move back into health equilibrium, but also what they mean for your life and how you can integrate those learning into your life and create what you want. So just feel free to get in touch if you want to have one of those discussions. I'd be really happy to do that. Hope you found it useful. It was a bit garbled tonight, but there we are, technological troubles, etc. So one last thing, if you aren't already in the group, then please come and check out my group all about vitality and health. It's called Feel Better, Heal Better. There should be a link in the description here if you'd like to come along and join us. And there's also a free guide that I've got called the 7 Pillars of Vitality, which looks at all of the things, 7 different areas and many suggestions within all of those 7 areas of things that you can do so that you can make yourself have more vitality and just approach life with more health and enjoyment. So that's me, Sam Neffendorf, signing off. Thanks for being here. See you again. Cheers. Bye.